Welcome, everybody, to Self-Care for Moms to stop overwhelm and burnout and reclaim your life. Welcome.
Reclaim it.
Reclaim
Woohoo!
it.
Yeah,
Take it back. Reclaim it. It's yours. Don't forget that.
that's right.
So we're just going to actually jump right in because we're fired up about this. So just so you know. So we're talking about the video that has been circulating on Instagram with the mom running over the finish line and having the kids yelling to her, "Mommy, mommy, mommy, pick up my toy," whatever it is. We're not sure what it is. It's unclear what it is that she needed to pick up, but the kids yelling to their mother, who just crossed the finish line of a race that she just ran, asking her to do something for them. In this case, it was pick up a toy. And she does it. And she's clearly annoyed based on what she has said. And I'm sure in her life, it is not a huge deal, even though it was one of those like annoying moments, but I'm sure she's gotten over it by now, although maybe not, because it's circulating and it went viral. And so everybody's talking about it. So, but we are talking about the reasons behind why that would have happened. So in other words, why did she feel compelled to pick that up? Why were the kids not told by the dad who was taking the video to, we're not asking her that right now. We're celebrating mommy. Why were there no congratulations, mommy? Yay, mommy, all this stuff. There was none of that. It was she crossed the finish line. They needed something and nobody thought anything of it to just say, "Hey, mommy, since you're right there, come do this thing for me." And she does it. Now, full disclosure,
I don't
Angie.
know if I heard thank you either.
No,
I don't know if
thank
the
you.
kiddo said thank you.
Yeah.
I
It's possible that the camera didn't pick up a thank you,
or the
but no,
word
I didn't.
thing, but I don't hear thank you.
Yeah.
Yay for
No. There's no thank you. There's no congratulations. There's no yay, mommy. The closest that there is, hey, there's mommy. That's it.
Yeah.
That's
Hey,
all.
mommy.
There's mommy, and that's it. There's no, yay, you did it, or that's awesome, or nothing. It was, I need my toy. Mommy, you're right there. I need it. I mean, that's not exactly what they said, but I mean, that's the message. Like, you're in there anyway, so just do this thing for us. So full disclosure, Angie and I have slightly different opinions on this video. I am highly offended by this video, and it's got me fired up. I'm not going to lie, because it's one of those things that you see and you look at it and you're like, that sucks. But then as you start thinking about it, you're like, wait a minute, what in the actual F just happened? Right?
Right.
And so it's sort of like that slow realization. Why did everybody in her family think that was okay? Why did she feel compelled to agree to it and actually pick it up, even though her comment indicates that she was clearly annoyed by the whole situation? Why is it okay that her accomplishment was completely dismissed and diminished and not thought of at all because little kid, and we're not sure how old they are, they look, they look little. They look elementary age. They look little, right? That you stop what you're doing, this moment that you created for yourself by hard work and determination and just wanting to do something for yourself. You run a race, and I don't know how long the race was. It doesn't matter. Even if it was 2 inches, I couldn't do it. So the fact that she ran a race is amazing. And crossing the finish line, I probably would have passed out way before then. That is just completely gone. It's just, I mean, unless, she could have a strong mind of her own, and be like, well, I really accomplished that. And that's great. And I hope that she has that. Having nobody congratulate her from her family as she crosses the finish line, I just think is appalling, completely appalling. So like I said, Angie and I have different views on this, slightly different views. So
Right.
I will let Angie talk about her side, what she thinks.
So when I first watched it, I was like, what's the big deal? I mean, I would have done the same thing. There was a barrier there. They dropped something. I don't know what it was. It clearly was important to the kiddos. I'm walking right by. I'm going to pick it up. I'm not going to leave it there for someone else to trip over, step on. I'm going to pick it up. I'm not going to question that. And then I mean, then I also have this thing about social media and people's comments on social media and how people can draw some real hard conclusions based on the available evidence. So there are some things, there are more questions about what I'm not seeing or what isn't in the clip. Like, we don't know what happened before. We don't know what the relationship of the man to the children is. We're assuming that he was a father caretaker figure. And so that those are the things, like my doubts about, like, this is the picture that they want to paint. They want to show you that a woman's work is never done, and that this is what our mamas do, is we sacrifice ourselves at the expense of our own joy and celebration in order to pick up something our kids dropped. So those are the where I'm coming from in terms of just the overall thinking about the big picture behind the little picture. But
Yeah.
it raises some really interesting questions about, she was annoyed. I mean, I think that we can say there's enough evidence in the picture, in the video, and in her tone of voice that she was annoyed. I'm going to stop, because that's what she says. I'm going to stop what I'm doing and help everybody, right?
Because that's what moms do.
Because that's what moms do. And I'm like, yes. So she was annoyed by that the things that she was doing in the moment weren't important enough for and I'm not, these are children, right? Children always are giving us opportunities to teach them a different way. And there were adults in that situation. Apparently, there was an adult with those children that could have educated them in a way that would have perhaps felt more respectful to. I'm assuming that her feeling was she felt disrespected. She felt unseen in that moment, unappreciated, undervalued, like her accomplishments were undervalued. And that might have fueled the snark in her comment. So, I mean, so why'd she do it? And I know y'all have gone out there and you've done things that afterward you're like, well, why did I do that? And that's really worth unpacking. That's what is intriguing me. Let's unpack that. Let's talk about, why did she do it?
So my opinion is, this is a perfect example of the conditioning that we have been talking about for this entire podcast, this entire series of podcasts. This is the conditioning that seems like it's no big deal. I'm just going to do it to go with the flow. It's easier to do it than to push against. So I'm just going to do it. Now, I'm not saying that she had all those thoughts consciously, but these are the subconscious thoughts that are in our brains. It's our job to take care of the kids. It's our job to make the kids happy. It's our job to not make waves. I got to do my thing. So now it's only right that I do this thing for them. I'm across the finish line now. So what's the big deal? I'm just going to go do it with no thought to, well, and I'm assuming we don't know what she was thinking, but what it seems like is there's no thought to, why aren't they celebrating me? It's more of, well, I'm across the finish line, so it's no big deal. I'm just going to grab it and move on with my day. But there is, like you said, that comment that she said that indicates that she is not happy with the way that went down. Now, what's happening now, obviously, we don't know. What happened right after, obviously, we don't know. We do only have that little tiny snippet, and I don't know how long it is, maybe 10, 15 second long clip of her coming across the finish line and then picking it up and then running away. It's one of those things that when incidents like that happen all over, to thousands and millions of moms all over the country and the planet, really, that it's this collective idea that moms always do for their kids and their family at the expense of themselves. And why is that? And that is 100% conditioning for girls, starting as babies, and then little kids and girls and teenage girls and young adult girls and older women, or, women, older women, married women, moms, right? That is the conditioning. The thread through the entire lifespan is that women are supposed to do for other people no matter what and put themselves second. And I'm not saying that every woman does that. Of course, there are women that do not put themselves second. But my question to you is, what do you think of those women? They're usually vilified. Well, she's selfish. She's a
So what do
bitch.
I think of
She's
okay, I
this.
lost you there for a second. What do you think about those women that the woman that would have said, "I'm not doing that right now." No.
Yeah,
Or, "Hi, family," and would have totally ignored the request altogether. Because there
right.
is a woman out there in that race that would have done the same thing, that would
That
have
would
done
have
that.
done the same thing, or,
Right.
would have done,
Say
would have
say, "Yay, mommy," say,
ran.
"Congratulations to mommy."
Yes,
So, yeah.
right, right. Yes, there would be. And so, what would we have thought of that woman? I mean, someone would have cheered her on and say, yay. And other people would have been like, well, how could you have not done that? Your kid
Right.
was right there asking you to do something. And
And it
right. So there's going to be judgment around not doing it. And the fear of that judgment, of people judging you as a bad mother or a selfish person or somebody who doesn't care about other people. The fear of that judgment is, in my opinion, way stronger than the desire to actually put yourself first and say no. And
So I looked up what social conditioning is so that we have a definition of that. And that Wikipedia, which, is always telling the truth. But social conditioning is the sociological process of training individuals in a society to respond in a manner generally approved by the society in general and peer groups within society. So there is a lot of things happening in terms of that woman's mindset as she's coming across that finish line, and people are cheering on that. If fear of judgment was the motivating factor, I mean, only she can tell us what motivated her to stoop over, to stop running, as she said, to stop what I'm doing and help everybody, and what motivated her to do that. And I agree with Carrie in this aspect that it was more likely than not that it was fear of being judged as a bad mom if she didn't do what her kids said, her kids asked her
right.
to do. So
Yeah.
that's crazy. Oh my goodness. Let's unpack that for a second.
Yeah.
Why do we
Yeah.
feel compelled to serve our children?
Well, I think it goes back to just feeling compelled to stay part of the group. And when
Yeah.
you're, so when you part of the group, in this case, it's the group of moms or group of women, you want to do what everybody else is doing because that's easier. You blend in, you're not judged because you're doing what the group is doing. And as soon as you
Right.
move away from what the group is doing, and in this case, it would have been saying, I'm running right now. Sorry, right? There's a vulnerability there because you have now separated yourself from that group. So now you're
Right.
kind of
There's
out
that.
there on your own.
Right. That
And
primal need to belong. I would say that we are more biologically conditioned to that, because if 2000 years ago, being part of the group meant survival. And in many ways today, that's still true, right? Being part of the group means that your chances of survival are increased, improved. So, and being part of the group means that you're going to be approved, that your behavior is approvable, like people approve your behavior. So,
right.
for sure, that separation, that I'm going to be separated from the group. I won't be considered a good mom. And Lord knows that if I'm a bad mom, I can't be, like, people don't want me to be part of the group.
Right. And so, I mean, the definition of bad mom kind of doesn't exist. In general, the bad mom thing is just this amorphous thing that everybody feels like they are. I'm a bad mom. I'm a bad mom. I'm a bad mom. Because I didn't do this, or I said it this way, or I lost my shit, or there's so many things, and all of it is nonsense. But we're so conditioned to want to do everything for our kids that it's so hard to not do that. It's almost impossible to break away from that. And so when you're in the middle of a crowd and your kids are yelling to you, can you get this for me? Now it's not just a matter of you in your house saying, I'm doing something, you need to wait. Now it's a matter of how many people were there. There were hundreds and hundreds of people there. You have an audience now, right? So you're just like, it's just, you know what? I'm just going to do it because it's easier to do it than to not do it, because the backlash would be way more intense, but I don't like it. It obviously didn't feel good to her.
It feels good. And I think this clip, Carrie, is a great example of how your feelings are the hint. The feelings are like the flag waving that said, like, if she looks back at that video and she hears the snark in her voice, the sarcasm in her voice, is she going to think, wow, that did annoy me? And then become more aware of why that feeling, like your feelings are the clue that something isn't sitting right, like you're out of alignment with something that you believe and the
Mhm.
way you want to feel. They're out of alignment if you're having that kind of negative emotion
Yeah.
that was fueling her snark. And it was all done in a flash. It was all done in that, like you said, 10 seconds that
Right.
she saw the situation. She heard the child express the need, and she stooped to pick up the thing and
Yep.
put it in the hand of her kid.
Right.
So,
And
and off she went.
most people are going to say that's no big deal. That's no big
Right,
deal. Like she did it. It's why are you making such a big deal about it? It's no big deal. But
right.
times that type of activity, I guess, for lack of a better word, by 100, by 1,000. How many times do we as moms do stuff like that, either without thinking about it or being annoyed by it, but doing it anyway, and then just brushing it off like, I'm just making a big deal about it. I'm just
Right.
making a mountain out of a molehill. It's not that big a deal. And then other people are telling you that too. It's not that big a deal. Why are you making such a big deal out of this? It was nothing. You bent over for 5 seconds and picked up the thing. What is the big deal? Well, the big deal is that nobody congratulated her on doing something that was amazing. And so, do we need other people to congratulate us to be able to do things for ourselves? No, but it would be nice. And the fact that the standard sometimes is as long as you feel good about what you're doing, then that's enough. I feel it's selling ourselves short by not. It's kind of a fine line because you can't expect other people and you can't control other people to do what you want to do, what you want them to do. But at the same time, the fact that it's just not even, it's not questioned. It's not questioned that she wasn't congratulated, you know? And I know that's not true because I've read the comments and there's a lot of comments in that post that agree with what I'm saying. There are a few that are saying, you know, what's the big deal? But the majority of them are, why wasn't she congratulated? Why is her accomplishment diminished? Why can't the kids wait? Why didn't the husband tell them to wait?
But so I want to talk more about the fact that she was clearly involved in an activity that was hers alone, running that race. And she had achieved an accomplishment, like literally crossed the finish line. And her children make a request of her time and effort, and she fulfills it without even, well, without consciously questioning it, came across in the tone of voice.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking about developmentally when you have children that are of early, like they might be first, second, third grade, six, seven, eight age. And that's the time when you are starting to, like, you've done everything for your kid until they get into elementary school. And then suddenly they're away from you and they have to be more independent. They have to do more things for themselves. And then there's that gradual release of responsibility as they get older, and that you want them to be more self sufficient and take more care of themselves. So I think that in terms of thinking that the kids did something awful, that I don't know that if she's the primary caretaker, that it would have been a request of the primary caretaker just developmentally, right? So we have to be aware that that's also something else that was happening, that was going on. But I want to talk about the awareness. Like she has some awareness now that it didn't feel good to be asked of that. And she probably ran away thinking, why the heck did I do that? Why did I pick that up? That was so silly. I should have
Mhm.
just kept on running. Like maybe. Or maybe she just was like, well, dang it, he didn't do this and blah, 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 blah. Like, I got to work on my kids. They are so spoiled, blah, 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 blah. You know, like whatever the thought process is.
Yeah.
But that kind of social conditioning is not going to, we're not going to change it without more opportunities. And this is where I can actually say this is an opportunity to have it sparked a discussion. And whether or not I agree with social media and the role of social media, that's where this was placed, right? But it sparked a discussion about how we bought into these beliefs and ways of being that without her consent. And how that awareness, the next time something like that happens, she's going to have that moment of that spark of, aha, this is an opportunity for my children to be independent and to solve their own problems, etc., and not ask me to solve it for them when I am doing something that's important to me. And now she has that awareness. And now the next time something like that happens, she's going to be much more capable of stopping her behavior, of reacting to the request, because she's going to be like, aha. Or maybe it's going to happen a dozen more times or 50 more times. And each time she's going to get gradually more annoyed, which is probably what happened with me. Right?
Right.
And then I've become aware that, goodness, I am not a victim here. This is not something that's being done to me. I can stop this reaction because I am in control of what I do.
Right.
So that's what I'm thinking a lot about, like how, because this thing has gotten a lot of views, like how it's impacted the way that she is seeing her response in that moment.
Yeah. I would love to know kind of the backstory. And I want to be clear that we're not vilifying anybody. Yeah. I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form that she should have done one thing or another. I'm just saying it's interesting that that's what she chose. And I will say, and I'm not vilifying the husband either, because again, we don't know the behind the scenes, and maybe he was distracted or whatever, but it's just one of those situations that make you think, what is happening and why do women feel compelled to do these things when they're literally in the middle of doing something for themselves? I mean, how many stories have we heard about pregnant women who are going into labor, know they're going into labor, but they got to pick the kids up from school first. So they drive there, get the kid, get them lunch, get them right. And then they're like, okay, now I can go to the hospital. I mean, I heard those stories constantly when I was having kids, with these stories that people would say. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
I think, Carrie, what you're saying is a thing that you're pointing out is, in our society, we still expect a mom to be selfless.
Yes, all the time.
And we judge a mom on how selfless she is. The more selfless she is, the more saintly she is. That means that equates to the good mom.
Right.
So we have to be careful as moms to protect that and not judge ourselves.
Yes. And there are, like you said, there are times where you have to be that way, in the case of having a newborn. And even then, I will say, you don't have to be that way. There are people that either, there are moms that, the dad is the sole caretaker from the get-go, and that's how they do it. And that's fine.
Yeah.
But there's some person in your inner circle that needs to take care of that baby. Yeah, exactly. So so there are seasons where you have to prioritize the needs of your kids over yourself more often. It doesn't mean that you need to completely forget about yourself, but that's hard to do in the middle of all that chaos. And I understand that. I mean, we lived that. We both lived that, which is one of the reasons that we decided to do this podcast, to bring awareness to moms that you don't have to do it that way. You don't have to completely forget about yourself all the time in order to be able to take care of your family. It's not sustainable. It's not good for you. But I think that this video actually, let me back up. I put a poll on my stories and on my post of, what would you do in this situation? So the question, yeah, if you were the mom, like, what would you do? I had the post of the video, just a piece of it, and what would you do in this situation? And choices are: pick it up, keep running, or tell the husband to do it. Those are the three choices that I created for people to choose from. To my surprise, this blew me away. The majority of the people who voted said that they would pick it up. That blew me away. That completely blew me away. And my first question is, why? Why would you pick it up? Because you think that it's your duty? Because it's just easier to pick it up than deal with the consequences? Because you're afraid of
It's
being
the nice
judged?
thing to do.
Because it's the nice thing to do, right? I mean, I suppose you could say you're teaching your kids to be kind to other people. And so if you're not kind, then they're not going to be kind either. So being kind is picking it up. You know, you could have that argument too. I don't know what the right answer is. All I know is she did seem clearly annoyed, which made me think that the reason that she's doing it is because it's easier to do it than to not do it. That
And in
part.
that moment, she had two, I mean, it was a flyby, right?
Yeah. Right.
I mean,
I
you
mean,
can really
she
see
literally
why
didn't break
it was
stride. She
right,
just,
right.
yeah.
Picked it up, kept going.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, I'm curious, what does the audience think? What do you guys think about, first of all, have you seen it? I'll put the link in the show notes so you can look at it. But what do you think when you see that video, or if you've already seen it? What is your initial reaction? What is your visceral reaction? Are you appalled by it like I am? Or are you, well, I mean, that's just kind of what moms do and we don't know the whole story, right? And so are you team Angie or are you team Carrie on this one? I don't
Because my
know.
initial reaction really was, I don't get it. What was the
Yeah.
big deal?
What's the
That
big
really was my
deal?
initial reaction. And I also would have added to your poll, Carrie, what would you have done? And question number 2 is, how would you have felt after?
Oh, good
So
one.
if I had just ignored the request, I would have felt guilty after. If I would have said, Dad can do it, then I would have felt guilty afterward, because clearly, oh, he's got the kids and we're assuming the male in the video is the father, but how would I have felt after? And then that feeling is your opportunity to examine your fundamental belief, what is the motivating belief, which is informed by how you were conditioned, how you were raised to believe that.
Yeah.
So that's to me like the fascinating part. Like what does that mom think now?
Right. Yeah, I'm curious. I want a follow-up video.
Yeah.
What's the follow-up? I want the follow-up video.
Yeah.
So that has been on my mind. I think I saw that yesterday and it's swirled in my head of all the different things that we've talked about today. So let us know what you think. I'll put the video link in the show notes so you can take a look. But I am curious because, like I said, the barrage of comments on the original post were definitely what the hell. I mean, that was basically the theme through the majority of the comments. But I am curious what moms think about that. So let us know. What do you think? Are we making a big deal out of nothing? Or specifically me, am I making a big deal out of nothing? Let me know.
Is it just social media hype?
Yeah.
Or
is
there something more true? Is there this more commentary about where we're at in terms of our fundamental beliefs about what it means to be a mom in our society?
Mm-hmm. Yes. All right. I think we'll leave it there.
Carrie? How would our folks let you know?
How would my folks let
the folks that are listening? How do we want them to?
I thought you meant my parents, and I'm thinking my parents wouldn't tell me what they're thinking. It wasn't a thing. Yeah, I will have a link in there where you can cast a vote. Let us know. I'll have something in the show notes where you can cast a vote, but I'll put the video link in there as well. So
I look forward to hearing from our listeners.
I know, me too. I'm curious. I'm really curious what you think. So don't be shy. If you don't agree with me, please let me know. If you want to hear a different topic, let me know. We want to hear from you. So, all right. Well, we're going to leave it there. And till next week, everybody, and have a wonderful week. And don't forget to let us know what you're thinking about this topic, because I am fired up.
She's fired up. Have a good one, everyone.
All right. Bye.